We all know that one person. The one with a crazy amount of skill at one particular thing. A person who has spent a gargantuan amount of time and effort into perfecting a single activity or craft. That person that, if you were to put them into a contest competing at that one thing, they would walk away with gold, silver, and bronze medals, as well as a cash prize that nobody even knew about. Well, the Imperium of Man has a group of these people too. Since the War of the Beast, the Imperium has produced and maintained a chapter of Space Marine specialists that have focused all of their efforts, resources, and training into combating the Xenos threat, the Deathwatch. These alien extermination experts make up the shield that slays, protecting the Imperium's citizens from the Xenos usurpers that would see the glory of mankind's achievements completely undone. From their many great Voidborn watch fortresses, the Brothers of the Deathwatch prosecute an endless war of extermination against alien life in the galaxy. The Deathwatch are, in a word, professionals. In the same way that the Adeptus Astartes, the Space Marines, accept only the most promising candidates from their recruitment worlds, the Deathwatch recruit only the most talented and deadly Space Marines from the chapters that have pledged to lend a portion of their numbers to these artisans of Xenos eradication. Watch Captain Brand once famously said, "Amongst 100 men, there may be none fit for the Adeptus Astartes. Amongst 100 Space Marines, there may be one fit for the Deathwatch." Never will you find a bog-standard Astartes amongst the ranks of the Deathwatch, for all of them are, to a man, exceptional in the craft of alien slaughter. This does not mean, however, that only veteran Marines that have seen 100 wars are accepted, so long as the recruit's skill at arms meets the stringent standards of the thin black line, they can be accepted. Should his skill be beyond reproach, even a scout that has not even received his black carapace yet may be selected to serve, though this is rare in the extreme. Concerning another matter that is rare in the extreme, the Marines of the Deathwatch may find it necessary to work with the very Xenos that their creed mandates them to slaughter. If a threat presents itself to be too great for the Deathwatch alone to handle, they may be willing to ally themselves temporarily with a more amicable alien. These alliances never last to a state of permanence, and they are shaky at the best of times. However, the Astartes of the Deathwatch prize the goal of their mission above all else. For example, if a kill team is dispatched to eradicate a group of Drakari raiders, and the world they happen to be raiding is controlled by Craftworld Eldar, it is not outside of the realm of possibility that an unsteady alliance may be struck between Marines and the Craftworlders, as seen in C.S. Goto's Deathwatch, Warrior Coven, or even a faction as disgusting as the Town, as seen in Sanctuary of Wyrms by Peter Fahavari, when an Iron Hands Marine sequestered to the Deathwatch is saved from certain death and commits to a demise working with the alien in an effort to halt the rising Tyranid menace.
How long have you waited?
How long?
His voice was slurred and electronic, the syntax broken.
Very long.
How did you survive?
He turned his optic on Asheril, weighing him up like an iron god. Abruptly, the visor covering the right side of his face slid aside. In place of flesh and bone was a formless grey tangle riddled with electronics and corroded rivets.
The flesh betrays.
He said, though he had no lips.
But the machine is faithful.
Asheril saw his doom then.
We destroyed the taint.
Asheril said carefully, indicating the tattered spore bomb.
You did not. This was nothing. Just another tendril of the corruption. I watched it grow, then grow stale over the long.
He faltered as his splintered mind strove for coherence.
The root survives. The mission is incomplete.
This undying tomb must be quarantined, lest we fail to destroy its voracious legacy. I am no warrior, but I can carry grenades, and we will bear many into the unclean bowels of this place.
To be recruited into the Deathwatch, a Marine must first prove himself. not just competent, but masterful in putting down the Xenos foe. Oftentimes, the captain of a company will take notice of a battle brother who shows this flavor of promise and recommend him for selection. After a clean bill of health is received from his apothecary, and his chaplain attests to the purity of his soul and the integrity of his character, the recruit will be brought to the chapter master's attention. If he approves, the promising Astartes is marked for dispatch to the Deathwatch. When the time finally comes for the recruit to leave his battle brothers behind, there will often be a solemn ceremony to mark his first step on this new, perilous journey. The Marine's armor may be repainted, covering his old colors in the jet black of the Deathwatch. This is done in recognition of the fact that his parent chapter may never see his face again. As soon as he arrives at the Watch Fortress, the new Deathwatch recruit will be subjected to a torturous regimen of mental and physical training that will push him to his breaking point and beyond. Before the days of the Primaris, a Marine will be given a set of armor, entirely new to them, but not new in any traditional sense. For that armor, in all likelihood, would have been worn by heroes of generations gone by, and been stained by the blood of countless Xenos. Even if the Marine has faced Xenos in the past, he has not seen all the galaxy has at its disposal, and he must be ready for all of it. Courses of hypno-indoctrination will pour thousands of years of distilled research into his subconscious, so that even when faced with a threat he has never encountered, the Astartes will find himself aware of its weaknesses. There are two known instances where under no circumstances will a Marine be inducted into the Deathwatch's ranks, no matter his skill at arms. Gene seed taint is not an uncommon occurrence amongst the ranks of the Adeptus Astartes, and most impurities are of no great concern when compared to what a Marine will be capable of once he's completed his training. However, two of the most revered chapters in the Imperium's long history harbor taint that cannot be overlooked. The Blood Angels and their successors, also known as the Sons of Sanguinius, bear burdens that are the Red Thirst, a ceaseless desire to consume the flesh and blood of others, and the Black Rage, an inescapable rage that can cause the afflicted Marine to become a raving lunatic in the midst of battle. These victims of this genetic curse must be recovered and shipped off to join the Death Company, a company of Blood Angels sequestered off from the rest of the chapter, where they must remain for the rest of their presumably short lives. The Space Wolves and their successors, also known as the Sons of Lehman Russ, bear a similar curse. Locked within their gene seed lies the aptitude for sharper senses and more durable skin. However, these boons are not without a terrible cost. Each of the Volca Fenrica has a potential to become a monster of muscles and fangs, yearning for blood and flesh, and losing all sense of oneself. Neither a Blood Angel, who has succumbed to the Black Rage, nor a Space Wolf who has joined the Great Pack of the Wolfen may be inducted into the Deathwatch. Only the apothecaries of his chapter may minister to this curse, and grant him his final rites should he succumb. Unlike their cousin Astartes chapters, the Deathwatch do not opt for a traditional chapter structure per the Codex Astartes. Instead, each watch fortress is led by a watch commander who is supported by a staff of librarians, chaplains, and apothecaries. Under their guidance, 5 watch captains oversee a watch company made up of 4 kill teams. A kill team is the smallest unit in the Deathwatch's core structure. Each is made up of 5 to 10 Astartes warriors, all from different chapters. While differences in culture and tradition often initially spark arguments and rivalries amongst battle brothers, over time and through overcoming adversity, they will form into one cohesive force. As a wise man once said, iron sharpens iron. And indeed, this is precisely what happens in the kill teams of the Deathwatch. Each Marine on the team will eventually learn to respect and rely on his brother's talents and methods. This structure emphasizes one of the greatest strengths the chapter has. There are a great many Space Marine chapters that are known for their rigid adherence to tradition, doctrine, and method. The Ultramarines, for example, are well known for their strict adherence to the text, known as the Codex Astartes, penned by their Primarch Rabute Gilliman. The Iron Hands have developed a formula called the Calculus of Battle, dedicated to calculating the most efficient way to prosecute an engagement, and another called the Calculum of Rationale, to tell them whether to fight a battle at all or not. In stark contrast to these two examples, the Deathwatch puts a premium on flexibility. Where most Astartes chapters have companies dedicated to expertise in a specific kind of military doctrine, such as close support specialists, or scouting companies that make use of high-speed scout bikes, the Deathwatch can and will mix and match Marines between kill teams, depending on what the mission at hand requires. This accommodation for lateral movement between kill teams ensures that not only will the mission be undertaken by the best Astartes for the situation, but also has the added benefit of cementing cohesion between all of the battle brothers that inhabit the Watch Fortress. They may have all come from different chapters, but they all have the same mission and serve the same Imperium. This service is not done alone, however. Through the millennia, the Deathwatch's heroic actions against the Xenos Scourge have garnered the attention of the Imperial Inquisition, specifically the Ordo Xenos. This organization is responsible for the complete erasure of the aliens from the face of the galaxy, as one may piece together on their own. The Ordo Xenos and the Deathwatch often find themselves having parallel motivations when it comes to the alien threat. Many a mission has been completed, with an Inquisitor leading the Deathwatch kill team to their goals, and on occasion, a brother of the Deathwatch will be chosen to lead the forces of the Inquisition to fulfill the Imperium's interests. Per the Codex Astartes, each chapter of Space Marines is limited to 1,000 battle brothers, with exceptions made for support staff, librarians, and other secondary roles. The Deathwatch has, until recently, been stretched woefully thin across the vast expanse of the galaxy. With the return of Rabute Gilliman, their impotence was recognized immediately. Issuing the Ultimaris Decree, Rabute Gilliman bound every newly founded Primaris Space Marine chapter to the tithe of the Deathwatch for all time, and also sent several chapters worth of Primaris Astartes and supporting staff and materials to the Watch Fortresses, flung across the stars. And whilst they may not be quite on the same scale as the Black Templars, this has in all likelihood led to the Deathwatch becoming one of the biggest Space Marine chapters of all time. The Deathwatch is officially recognized as the chamber militant of the Ordo Xenos, much like the ever-zealous Sisters of Battles are for the Ordo Hereticus, and the ever-elusive Grey Knights are for the Ordo Malleus. This does not mean, however, that both the Deathwatch and the Ordo Xenos see eye to eye on every issue. One specific example occurred when Inquisitor Renetton attempted to follow in the footsteps of the infamous Inquisitor Cryptman, seeing a chance to crush a Drakari invasion on the industrial world of Paragon 3. He attempted to lure a Tyranid splinter fleet into the system, after the utter collapse of several alliances based on promises of fealty that he could not uphold. The disaster which followed can be assumed to be so catastrophic that knowledge of it has not been made fully available outside the most classified records of the Inquisition. What is known about the disaster is that it shook the system to its very core, most likely leaving a permanent mark on its populace and industry. This flagrant disregard for the sanctity of Imperial resources did not escape the Deathwatch's notice, and they dispatched Kill Team Sayax, who returned with Inquisitor Renetton in chains to face trial for his most egregious failure. In the prosecution of their eternal vigil, the Deathwatch will, inevitably, be faced with challenges that they cannot surmount. For the most dire of circumstances, when the alien has proved too unassailable an enemy, when the clock strikes the 12th hour, when the flame of hope and the defiance of a world has flickered out, the Deathwatch have a singularly final word on the matter. The Kill Ship is a class of automated drone vessel that is equipped with some of the best stealth technology that the Imperium can produce. Once it enters a system, it silently, invisibly, slips through any network of detection that the enemy has erected and makes its way to the target world. Once the Kill Ship has entered orbit, it will silently deploy ordnance of apocalyptic power, Exterminatus class weaponry. These include, but are not limited to, massive atomic warheads, virus bombs that are coded to destroy all organic life upon contact, or cyclonic torpedoes capable of burrowing into a planet's core, detonating and destabilizing the integrity of a world, leaving it to tear itself apart with its own rotational force. Whatever the method be, the Kill Ship will not linger to observe the aftermath of its regrettable task. While its ordnance is still inbound to the planet's surface, the automated instrument of planetary obliteration will use the planet's gravity to sling itself away back into the inky black void. As it is with all Imperial record-keeping, there will be conflicting information between two sources. While the general consensus on first contact with the ancient soulless race known as the Necrons was that it occurred in 897.M41 with the raid on Sanctuary 101, the records of the Deathwatch place this first contact over a century earlier, in 780 M41. The Deathwatch discovered ruins on a world in the Jericho Reach, a sector of space on the fringes of Imperial territory rife with chaos and beset by Tyranid incursions. A Mechanicus probe was the first to cite these anomalous structures, and the Deathwatch sent a kill team to investigate immediately. Upon arrival on the world where the ruins had been sighted, the kill team noted the architecture to be completely unknown to any of them, a sure sign of Xenos taint. The investigation had gone on for about a day before they discovered a lone structure, humming with some unknown power. As they approached the structure, a door at its base opened, filling the space with a sickly green glow. The shadow of a skeletal figure stood in the doorway, and the entire kill team felt a voice invade their minds. Its instruction was a simple, ironclad imperative: to leave and never return. To a man, each of the members of the kill team fell unconscious. When they awoke moments later, the structure had disappeared. With all urgency, they made their way back to the Watch Fortress for a full report of their findings. Shortly after, the world they had gone to explore was swallowed by a spatial anomaly, never to be seen again. Just like any chapter of the Emperor's Adeptus Astartes, members of the Deathwatch may harbor secrets they wish to take with them to their graves. Perhaps once in a generation, or even two, a warrior will present himself at a watch fortress. His armor will be painted entirely black, and a shoulder pauldron will be void of any and all chapter iconography. He will not be questioned as to his origin, but instead will be classified as a Black Shield. These Marines will be bound to the Deathwatch for life. Perhaps they come from a chapter that has been all but destroyed. Perhaps they were once traitors that have turned back to the Emperor's light, but wish to keep their lives and continue to serve. Whatever the case is, it is common that the Black Shield will never reveal his true nature to his battle brothers, choosing instead to forge a new path in the ever-raging war against the Xenos. Rarely, a Black Shield will rise through the ranks, as was the case for Watch Commander Israfil, a warrior of dour countenance. He led his forces valiantly against the alien scourge for nigh on 4 decades, before being declared missing in action. Despite a massive effort by a battle group from the Dark Angels chapter of Space Marines, his body was never recovered. However, his name was given a place of eternal honor in his watch fortress, where he will be remembered for as long as the Imperium stands. At their core, Space Marine Black Shields are outcasts, but the Deathwatch provides a unique, safe haven for these Marines. As we can see in Mission Purge by Gav Thorpe, when a Space Wolf and a White Consul jest at the expense of a Black Shield in the Deathwatch to everyone's humor as they're fighting off Gene Stealers.
As I might not get another chance, answer me something, Urbino.
I will do what I can to oblige.
Is it the Rainbow Warriors? I mean, I can understand why you would keep that a secret.
How so? The Rainbow Warriors have ascended from the gene seed of Gilliman himself, as are the White Consuls. It is a heritage born with pride.
Yes, but the name,
No, brother. I am not of the Rainbow Warriors.
Must we name every chapter there has ever been to get our answer?
Even if you guess correctly, I would not confirm it.
Perhaps the most famous Black Shield of all is the former captain of the Ultramarine 2nd Company, Demetrian Titus. Once a lauded member of the Sons of Rabute Gilliman, Titus was handed over to the Inquisition on suspicion of Chaos Taint. There he languished in the clutches of Inquisitor Jerome Thrax for nigh on a century, before being released by another Inquisitor and handed over to the Deathwatch. Taking on the new name of Nullus, Titus would continue his eternal service to the Emperor, scouring the galaxy of alien filth. During the Fourth Tyrannic War, Titus's kill team would be deployed on Kadaku, a world under siege by the Tyranids. Whilst the entirety of his kill team was slain, but himself, Titus was mortally wounded by a Tyranid Carnifex. Titus managed to deploy a virus bomb into the upper atmosphere, slowing the Xenos invasion enough to allow the Ultramarines to arrive in force. The Deathwatch are the best there is at what they do. They tirelessly ward the Imperium against the Xenos who would see it fall. Under their vigil, no alien shall breach their defenses, no Xenos shall break their lines, and they will not fail. As was said by Watchmaster Utorian Danash of Fort Pikeman. I am vigilance. I am the hunter's patience and the Castellan's fortitude. I am the burning brand that banishes the shadows, the shield that holds the monsters at bay, and the sword that pierces their black hearts. I am oath. I am duty, and I am victory. I am the Deathwatch, and my vigil shall never end. Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed this look into the Deathwatch. Something I really wanted to let you know is if you're the kind of person who enjoys Critical Role or other dramatized roleplay, a handful of the Astartes Anonymous team is involved in a Deathwatch RP campaign on a channel called Twist of Fate, run by a good friend of ours. So far it's in its early stages and is being done in such a way that one could join in at the start of any mission if you didn't want to catch up with its entirety. However, I would recommend doing so, or you'll miss out on some very juicy Space Marine war crimes.
I will say, so as you guys are disembarking into this gated community, and Gracchus turns back and sees that you've left a Tau unrestrained in his Corvus Blackstar, he's going to turn and go, I am not watching that thing.
What would you suggest, Brother Gracchus?
You leave those Crusaders to watch it. I am not watching that thing, squad lead. And he's glaring at Dima.
I am inclined to agree with Gracchus. At least one of them should be with him.
If you insist, squad lead. And he's just going to motion for one of them to go back.
As you leave behind one Crusader, the last thing you kind of hear is Gracchus bellowing at it. If that thing speaks in my presence, I will rip out its spine and beat you to death with it.